Good morning, everyone. Thomas Fleming here again. Well, the weather is pretty nice. It's cool for a morning, but that's typical. We're supposed to get, I think, to 70 today. Looking forward to that. I've got a shirt on just to keep the wind off my arms as I'm walking because it is still cool. All right. I've mentioned some things in just dropping some comments and pictures off in the statuses below, but I kind of want to talk about it in a video. I'm getting ready to start being more open about what I say because I'm in the process of transitioning to the other platforms. For a little while they stopped Rumble from copying files across. I'm sure it was YouTube that changed something. They had to go back in and update it. But before long, I'm going to be posting primarily to Rumble. And then if I can figure out a way to get it back to YouTube, I might. But they're probably not going to like what I say. So I'm going to have to do some extra work and create a shortened version, or just give up completely on YouTube. I don't want to get fined, and that's coming up next month. If they don't like what you're posting, they can fine you. And it's up to them, their standard of what they don't like. It could be they don't like my face. They don't have to have a reason. That's the bad part. There's no, if you say this or do this, no. It's up to them whether they fine you or not. It's also that way on PayPal. If you raise money for something they don't like, they can fine you. It won't be long until you won't be able to do anything in this world. But I just have to keep this going till we get out of here. And you're going to have to adapt as well as me if you want to get anything meaningful out of any of these videos. We're going to have to do that. Now, this one here, I'm going to still try to code my words so you can get the message, but I'm not going to be doing that much longer. Because when I get together with people like at a church or a Bible study, or just as we sit around and camp, and I start talking and I can get my words used into the conversation without having to code them, it's so much of a relief. All right. I am back to my normal spot. I'm probably going to hang out in this general area. I've heard from my son that he's going to be coming back the end of March. So I might sneak off on one trip just to get away from this area for a little bit, but I'm going to want to be in this area because I will have to go to the airport and pick him up. Okay, so I'm at my normal spot. This is my swing. And I'm going to go ahead and put the phone down so we can talk. And I don't want to have you go through that bumpy ride of me trying to position this phone. So I'll be back in just a second. Okay, there we go. So far, no wind, so we'll see how this goes. I'm probably going to have to get a regular camera tripod that can be more stable, and I think I've got an adapter that will fit on the top of one of them for my phone, and then I'm going to go ahead and switch to that. It's a little heavier to carry, but I'm not doing 50-mile hikes, so I can carry a tripod for a little while, at least a light one. I'm not going to carry around my big heavy-duty video camera tripod. That would be too much. Okay. We know that the 3020 reverse the number, see here I am, I'm going through this stuff again, agenda is out there. I popped a link down in the chat earlier before I started this video. I don't know if it's going to stay there or not, I really don't. It's from the UN site, so I mean it's public information. I don't know how they could refuse to allow it to stay. But I posted it around, so let's see. But there's one thing in there that, in this agenda, that you've got to understand. You've heard the phrase, you will own nothing and be happy. Well, how are we going to get there? Well, banning fuel for cars, that's one way. Forcing you to buy a $100,000 electric car and then not having the grid powerful enough to run it. How's that going to work? Well, they've thought about that too. The problem is we're overloading the grid. So there's a new initiative out there. I forget what it's called, but it's out there under some name. And they're doing it already in Europe, not fully. They're starting to implement it. And if they're doing it there, we're going to get it here eventually. And that is, you're going to have to make your phone, I'm looking at my phone, make your home more energy efficient. I think their goal is by 2050 to have your home be completely energy independent. Now that's quite a ways away, but they want to start the process before that. They don't want to just go up to 2050 and say, okay, now you got to do this. They're going to come in and say, these are things that you need to do to improve the energy use of your home. Now it may be to go in and change out all your appliances. It may be to go in and add solar, or to add something to deal with, whatever it is. Rich people are doing it already because they can afford it. But they're going to come back and they're going to say, you have a home, you've got to take these next steps to improve your home's use of energy so that we don't impact the environment. All going to be underneath that little umbrella of protecting the environment. Yeah, they want to protect the world that they would like to become accustomed to. Oh, and you're not part of it, but they'll get rid of us in the various wars that they're going to start. We have 50% of the Earth population is going to be destroyed by the seals and trumpets. Everything that the seals and the trumpets are basically man-made things. The, quote, wrath of God is not until we get the bowl judgments. And that's after the abomination of desolation. So that's after the midway point, after the temple is being used. So there's a lot of stuff that's still got to happen. But this stuff can happen fast. But they're going to come in and say, you have to do these improvements to your home. And oh, the price tag is probably going to be $100,000. If you're a homeowner, can you handle an additional $100,000 added to your home? You might survive the first upgrade. And this is only the first upgrade. They're going to be hitting with you enough upgrades that eventually you will have to either walk away from your home or just refuse to pay, in which case they're just going to take it. You're not going to be able to argue with these people. They will have the authority. We know that our government has equipped the IRS with guns and ammunition. They can come after you for whatever reason they want. And the only one to stop them at this point in time is the Supreme Court, and they're getting ready to deal with that. They just need a crisis. 9/11 was a crisis, and look at how many rights you lost. They just need another crisis. That's why and I can't use any of the names I like to use. Not bad names, but joking names about somebody being sleepy. If he had an honest medical, he wouldn't be in office. They're not done with him yet, but they will be. And they don't want his predecessor either, so I don't know where she's going to go or how they're going to get rid of her, but they're not quite ready. He's a useful tool, and that's all he is. Okay, so you're not going to own a car. You're not going to own a house. Outside of that, what else can you really own that's of material property? Well, of course, the land that it's on, if there's a house on it, they're going to take that. If you just own land, well, one, you're money foolish because land itself is no good. You have to have a way to make money on the land. And our billionaires are buying up land as fast as they can. And we're even inviting China to come in and buy up land. So there's not going to be a whole lot of land. And we're doing this free camping. Some like to go out and call it boondocking. You're boondocking on government land. What happens if they close it? Where are you going to go? I'm on a state park. It's government land. At some point in time, they're going to ban it. They don't want you doing anything for yourself. They want you coming up, oh, please, sir, can I have some porridge? The world is heading not to socialism, not to communism. It's heading to feudalism. You want to look that up? Go ahead. But basically, the crown, the king, owns everything. And he lets noblemen own pieces or rent pieces of his land as long as they help to provide military capability. So they have a small contingent that's on the nobleman's land to protect it. But they also have to protect the crown. And then the noblemen need workers. So they let the workers, the serfs, the peasants, have some property. It's still owned ultimately by the crown, but then by the noblemen. It's still all tied together. You cannot own anything. And you can farm, but you got to give a portion of your farming to the nobleman. And he may or may not give a portion to the crown. Depends on the setup. But that's feudalism. Feudalism is bad. You know the movie Robin Hood? Steal from the rich and give to the poor? It was feudalism. It took someone like him to, and it's fiction, but it's based on some true stories, so we're not sure how much of it's fiction. And though we don't necessarily know that he come jumping out on a limb and in green shorts, welcome to Sherwood. However, we're heading for that. So some useful tactics might be learn how to shoot a bow and arrow. You're not going to be able to have a gun. They can't stop you from having a bow and arrow because those could be made from surrounding materials. It's not going to be the fancy bows that I've hunted with, the compound bows. You might be able to find someone that can make those out of fiberglass. But that knowledge is going to be lost, so you're going to just have a straight, normal bow. I've hunted with them, but they're difficult. And they're not accurate. You'd have to be shooting these things all day long to get good enough to be accurate. But a compound has a sight built into it. You give me a 100-yard shot on a properly tuned compound and I can make it every time. That way we can eat, but we're not going to be able to go up against the military because they're going to have whatever stage we stop developing at. Because when they shut all this stuff down, there's not going to be any more development. They're going to live in whatever era they think is best for them. And right now, it's a bunch of old people that are doing this. So they're going to be running this from their point of view. So maybe they're going to take us back to the 30s, 40s, and 50s, I don't know. We're not going to have any cars, really. They will, but we won't. And they're not going to have, they're eventually going to do away with gas because nobody's going to be out manufacturing gas. They're going to have to be electric. Now, I don't know if they want to go to horse and buggy. They don't like cows, but I don't know how they feel about horses. But they want a simpler life that they can be king and queen of. And we're going to have to be peasants. And peasants don't fare well. So I'm not sure how that's going to go for the world in general, but they're going to have no other choice. And then you're going to have allegiance to the universal king, the so-called Christ that's here on earth, walking around doing miracles. I alluded to that in my tricky title. 3 Christs here on the earth, 3 different ways he could be on the earth. Well, we know there's really only 2, and one is really the only one that he finally comes to earth, and by that time it doesn't matter. He's going to get us in the clouds, but he doesn't come to earth. The one that's on the earth, Jesus warned us about him. A number of Bible verses warn us about him. He's down here now, working with the harlot. We don't know who he is. He's technically not the Antichrist until he dies and is resurrected with the spirit of the Apollyon, the beast from the pit. Then he's the Antichrist. And we won't be here. We're restraining him right now. And I've got to think that we're probably becoming a thorn in his side with the revival stuff coming up. They're going to come up with a way to deal with that, I'm sure. They're probably planning right now how to deal with it. Whether it's going to be another pandemic. They're destroying everything. You think these train wrecks are just happenstance? No. Do you think all of our manufacturing buildings that were catching fire were just the luck of the draw? Now, I don't know if it's our government specifically doing this, or if it's all the people that they're letting in. They're saying, come to America. You can come here for free and we'll pay you. Well, those people are going to find out, very sadly too, that there's a limit to how much this country can pay. And we're almost there. When this country collapses, all these people that came here illegally, they're going to be stuck. And they're not going to like it. And they're going to probably be the first to step forward and start rioting. So be ready. You don't want to get physically involved. This is a spiritual battle. Someone told me about a school that they've got a Satan class. Well, don't go burn the school down. That's wrong. Don't go hurt anybody. That's wrong. Pray. Now, if you pray outside the classroom, they will ask you to move along. You can pray any place off of school property. They will call the police on you and have you arrested, but pray. And you can pray from jail. They can't stop you from praying, but you don't have to look like you're praying. Now, we want them to know initially that we're praying. So you want to bow your head and look like it, but you don't have to do that. If you're a teacher, you can go about your day and pray. You just don't bow your head. They don't know what's going on in your mind. So we all need to pray. There is a small hope in the revivals that are going on of delaying Satan's return. But you're never going to stop it. God told us it's coming and God's never wrong. It doesn't mean give up. We're in a battle. And we've been told what's going to happen. All the stuff, for the most part, in Revelation doesn't apply to us. It doesn't apply to us because we're not going to be here. So don't worry about it. At this point in time, passing the word on, if you've got friends and relatives that don't know Christ, get the word to them. They're not going to want to listen. They don't want to hear, because they know anybody who does that knows you're right. And if they don't hear, they figure they're not obligated to follow it. But God, I didn't know. It won't work. Because that little connector inside of us that needs to connect to God is still there, even in atheists. And they're never going to be satisfied on earth until they're connected to God. They're going to try everything. We're watching, this week we got this new movie coming out, The Jesus Revolution. Go watch it. I wasn't a full attendee of Chuck Smith's church, but I did go there on occasion and enjoyed the music, part of this little 70s revival. Bunch of long-haired people. I was the oddball. I had short hair because I was still in the military. Now my hair was longer than normal. I'd buy Brill Cream by the case. I don't know if you remember what that is, but it would grease your hair down. And then before you go out, you wash all the Brill Cream out, and you get off the base before somebody catches you. And then you have a hat. You always had to have a hat if you were outside. So you tuck the hair up. It's like that song, signs everywhere, sign. I tucked my hair up under my hat, and I went in to apply. It says, "You look like a fine, understanding young man. I think you're due." I'm trying to paraphrase the words. I don't remember exactly. And he takes his hat off. He goes, "Imagine that, me working for you." Of all the things that they could criticize, you couldn't have a job if you had long hair. Craziness. I had some long hair, but I never had shoulder length hair. I had hair that you wouldn't see my ears, but I never had that. And I never really liked a beard back then, so I never had the beard. I'm having to grow my goatee back out because I got to do some pickup scenes for one of my Star Trek fan films that I'm doing. Pickup scenes where you go in and you as they're editing it together, goes, "Boy, it would be nice if we could see this. We don't have any footage of it? Okay, bring everybody back in and we'll do that little pickup scene." So I'm doing that. Was it next one? It's the first weekend in March, whenever that is, coming up. And it's a lot of fun, so I'm not going to give up my Star Trek. I've given up the other stuff, but I won't give up Star Trek. It was initially a wholesome show that had limits. All right. We have got to survive this. We don't have to survive on the other side, but we have to survive up to that. It's getting more expensive. I see more shelves are finding shortages in the supermarkets. We're not to the rioting in the streets yet, but we will be. We've had the various ethnic groups rioting in the streets and getting paid to do so for the most part, at least the leaders. They haven't seen anything until they see the average American rioting in the streets. They will come in with their military force and they will mow people down with their machine guns. Take my word for it, they don't value human life. And they want 80% of the population or more killed off. They don't want to have to, there's a limited number of leaders, I'm calling them that loosely. We have the 7 heads and the 10 horns. I mean, that's the beast and the Antichrist. That's 17. That's all they have. And they may have a few other buddies in the rich class that they're going to bring in. There may be 500 to 1,000 of their buddies that they want around. And then everybody below that's going to tear down. You will have your kings, you will have your noblemen, and then everybody else. And you will never have the ability to get from serfdom even to noblemen. The only way you can get there is to be appointed. and you've got to be able to comply with their rules. So there's going to be a lot of Robin Hoods out there. And they'll get away with it for a little while, but it's difficult to hide. If they take the technology back in time, that will be good for the Robin Hoods. Once everything's broken, there's nobody left to fix it, then you can survive in the woods, in the forest. I don't plan on being one, but I'm capable of being one, but I don't plan on it, don't worry. My battle is spiritual. Besides, I'm getting too old for this kind of stuff. The young kids have to look into that. But again, we're not fighting a physical war, we're fighting a spiritual war. So get together. You have to survive the day with your armor. And the armor does come with a sword. But you've got to live up to all those pieces of armor. You don't put them on and become that. You are those things, and you get the armor, the strength from it. You don't pick up a shield of righteousness. You are righteous, and you get the shield with it. Don't get it backwards. You don't get to heaven by works. You don't survive by works. You survive by the Spirit of God. Now, what you do after that, that's up to you and God. The breastplate of righteousness, the shield of salvation. Got to get him right. I don't even know if that's right. See, this is where I have problems. I know these things are there, but I can't store them in my head. So I have to look it up. I'll try to drop the references to your armor down below. So watch for that. I wish I could remember this stuff, but I can't. It just won't stay in my head. If God gives it to me, I usually have to sit down. My mustache is itching today. I usually have to sit down and look all these verses up so I have them on a piece of paper. Otherwise, I won't remember. And after I read them and I go on, within 5 minutes, I don't remember them again. I don't have dementia. That's just the way my brain works. I have a DOS brain in computer lingo. There's no graphics. Most people remember things by associating a picture. You know, they say if you're trying to remember something, remember that word, but associate it with a picture of something. You know, I can't do that. I don't see pictures. If I do, I can see them for a short while. Wow, the sun is coming up, it's up, it's breaking through the clouds. It may go away just as quick as it got here, but there's some light clouds up there. We're not supposed to get rain, but you never know. All right. Be ready. These things are coming. You know, don't assume that, it's my house, it's my castle. No, there's only one king on earth. And all this is going to burn up anyway. Maintain your house or your apartment, whatever. But apartment living is going to become more expensive as well. So a lot of you might want to look into what I'm doing. But eventually they will take this away as well. All right. Be happy and cheerful. The worse things get here, the sooner we get out of here. Till we meet in the clouds. God bless. And we have pancakes and eggs this morning. Easy enough to make.